Hi, everyone. Welcome to Show and Tell for the month of October, believe it or not. We're so excited that you're here with us today. Welcome. We're going to let everyone get into the webinar for just a minute or two. We do this webinar the first Wednesday of every month. We hope that you'll come back next month. We're really excited. We have a kind of a refreshed Show and Tell format that we're really excited about. That'll be on Wednesday, November 1st. And please come back then and kind of see some new things that we're going to be implementing for Show and Tell each month. This is just a chance for some of our team to come together and share some things that are really inspiring us, that we really love, some common themes that we're pulling out of our research. And I think before we jump into the links today, there's some events coming up that we want to talk about. First, just the usual logistical technical tips. We will share the recording of today's presentation. As always, we'll send it to you via email later this week, along with all the links that the team's going to share today. If you want to find any previous recordings of our Show and Tell monthly webinars, you can check out our YouTube channel, search for Fashion Snoops, or if you're a client, you can of course find them under the webcast portion of our website. We love to hear what you love as we go through our links. So if you have any questions or you want to give any shout outs to some links that resonate with you, just use the chat box. Just be sure to choose everyone under the pull down so that all the attendees can see what you are talking about. I'm going to pass it over to Amy, who leads marketing, just to talk about some really exciting upcoming events.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley. I lead marketing, as Michael said. Really great to have you with us today. Just a couple of events from me. So the first one is happening next Wednesday, and it's our Spring Summer 24 Women's Runway recap webinar. This is always one of our most popular webinars that we do. It's free to attend. You can sign up on our website, fashionsnoops.com/event, and just follow the link there. I will also pop it into the chat for you in just a minute. And then another couple of events I wanted to tell you about is we will be really excited about this. We'll be live in London, UK, and in New York City. So next week we'll be in London on the 10th of October running a couple of events, and then in New York in a couple of weeks on the 24th of October we'll be running the same two events. I'm going to hand over to Lily because she wants to elaborate more and tell you just what we'll be running in those two cities.
Thanks, Ash. Hi, everyone. I love these show and tells. It's always nice to get together once a month with all of you. So I'm excited about these two events. I'm going on a little road show. So the first one is in London. For anyone that's in the London area, please join us. Like Ash said, that's next week. And then in New York, in 2 weeks following Tuesday to 24th. Now, there are two different events. One of the events is a straightforward color preview. It's earlier than ever before, so anyone that does early color and needs early color information, and even for those of you who don't need early color, it's worth attending because it gives you, kind of an advanced view of fall 25-26 color. In London, we're doing it in an amazing space at Mortimer House, where our office is. And in New York, we're going back to our favorite space, Scandinavia House, where we used to do our trend emergence. So all of you in the New York area, if you remember those, we're going back there. We haven't been there, I think, in over three years pre-COVID. So it'll be nice to be back in that space. And that'll be a color presentation as well. I'm also leading a very, very different event, not our usual color presentation, and I'm really excited about it. I'm excited and nervous about it. We did two already. We called them our Curious Creators events. And these events are less about giving you the answers or giving you our direction for color or whatever direction that you normally come to us for. These are explorations, conversations, and more workshop style events. For me, the reason why I've really, it warms my heart to do them and continue to explore how else we could do them. I believe that we're in the most profound time, I believe, since I've started a fast of so much uncertainty and so many questions that we're all dealing with. And I think most of us are trying to answer some of those questions alone in our offices or between our teams. And I think it's incredible to come together as a community and answer, ask, and discuss some of the big conversations that we're all exploring together. And instead of just kind of listening to ourselves discuss it or talk about it, what we're adding this time is sound. So sound is my favorite vehicle to mind expansion. So every time, I tune into my own meditation every morning with sound, and those are the places where I find many of the answers that I'm searching for. So we'll be adding sound to this exploration, and I'm excited to explore that because I believe that it will allow us to think wider, tap into layers of our mind that we maybe don't get to access on a daily basis when we're rushing to our offices or doing our to-do list or trying to pack in more things to do in one day. So for an hour and a half, we'll come together and dive into what I call a sound journey into our curiosity. And it'll be an interesting combination of sound questions, exploration, discussions, and a lot of curiosity. And let's see what happens. So it'll be an experiment that I'm really excited about. So any of you in London and in New York, do register or chat us here. There's not many spots in that one available because we want to keep it intimate. So make sure you make it to there if you're in the area. And I'm excited to see all of you there.
Thanks, Lily. We're so excited to be back on that stage at Scandinavia House. And guys, it's free. You don't have to be a client. We rarely do events like this. So please come see us at these events. They're going to be a lot of fun. All right, give me just a second. I'm going to bring up today's links. We are going to kick off today's webinar, like all webinars should be kicked off, with Chelsea from our youth team. Hey, Chelsea.
Hi, Michael. Hi, everyone. I'm Chelsea. I am on our youth team. And today I wanted to share something that I stumbled across on TikTok, of course, because that's where I find everything. So this is Rebundle. Rebundle is vegan, plant-based, and biodegradable braiding hair. So the founder, Sierra Imani May, wanted to solve the problem of discomfort and waste in traditional synthetic braiding hair materials. So she started from the source, which she'll talk about in the video that we'll watch next. But this uses naturally extracted banana fibers to create non-toxic braiding hair, and it's 97% bio-based, and in turn it prevents itching and irritation to the scalp. And it also addresses sort of climate and waste concerns, again, with traditional synthetic braiding hair. And then the company also collects and recycles plastic and synthetic based hair to be recycled. And they have collected almost 500 pounds of hair to date. So the website's really beautiful. The styling shots and the modeling is also really diverse and beautiful. So I saw it on TikTok and I was just so intrigued and inspired. So if you want to go to the video, this was at BeautyCon LA, and they basically just interview the founder. It's about a little less than 2 minutes long. But she kind of just explains her reasoning, why she started this, and some of the more deep facts that I don't understand. So we'll let her talk about it.
So what we do is make braiding hair out of plants. It's non-toxic, it's free, and biodegradable. It's made out of banana fiber, so you're not gonna have to do that pat, pat, pat Okay. You're not gonna be scratching excessively, no hair loss, no traction alopecia on your edges, none of that. Non-toxic, better for your scalp, better for the environment.
With all of the things that you name, like alopecia, hair loss, itching, the things that Black women have gone through with braiding hair since the beginning of time, what made you decide to go and find something to help us with that?
I mean, like you, I was having that experience and I was just like, this is unacceptable. We go through this time and time again every time we get braids, and nobody was solving it from a product standpoint. From my point of view, I was like, this problem needs to be eliminated completely. Only way we can do that is if we change the material. So I started researching cellulose-based fibers and alternatives to traditional braiding hair, which is typically made out of polyvinyl chloride, which is really, really toxic to wear on your scalp and on your body, and landed on banana fiber, and here we are 8 SKUs later.
Oh, that sounds amazing, but the girls want to know, does it last? Does it last?
Does it look the same? Does it feel the same? Yes, 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 and no. It does not feel the same on your scalp. It doesn't feel the same in your hands. It actually feels more like human hair. You can reuse it, you can wash it, we dye it in 8 different colors already for you. It comes in 3 different lengths. So you get all the benefits of human hair and synthetic hair to wear it for braids without the itchiness.
Well, I love that. Can you please tell our people where they can find this plant-based braiding hair?
You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, all the above at rebundle.co. And you can also check out, you got the camera, we got some texture samples out on display. We got a braid demo going on right now. So come see us at BeautyCon.
Let's go.
So I linked the Instagram there as well. We don't have to click on that, but just for reference. But obviously I was so inspired by this. And then I went to the comments, of course, because there's always so much more conversation in the comments on TikTok. And one of the things people were asking is, and kind of talking about, was that it's a little bit more expensive because of that material. But it does kind of bring up the conversation that normally when there are these new sort of sustainable innovations, they can tend to be a little bit more expensive. But obviously that also leads to the conversation of how we can make things like this more accessible. But obviously this is an amazing start. And I was just so inspired by this. I haven't stopped talking about it since I saw it. So just wanted to share.
Really cool. I love when we share new and interesting products. It's a good segue into Taryn. You're on the call. You're going to present next from our beauty team. But Taryn, any interesting insights in banana fibers or similar things? I'm putting you on the spot from any of your research on the beauty team.
Yeah, so it's funny. Chelsea actually shared that earlier this week, and we have that brand included in one of our trend stories that's actually live on the site called Forest Awakening. So that's definitely something we're seeing. We're really excited about it. Obviously, women of color and their hair is a huge topic within beauty. They deserve a lot of innovation. So we're really excited to see that that's happening in the industry. So yeah, I hope that there's going to be more of it. And we're excited to see where the brand goes too. So if anyone's interested in that trend story, it's called Forest Awakening on the beauty section for fall, winter 24 and 25, I believe.
That's awesome. I love synergy like that. All right, Taryn. Well, good segue. So let's do things.
Hi, everyone. I'm Taryn. I'm the beauty and wellness strategist here at FS. Today, I'm going to be going over some links that have sparked some really fun conversations within the beauty team. So I'm excited to dive in today. The first link is about a new tell-all book that's being released about the beauty brand Glossier. Glossier, if you're not familiar with the brand, is a direct-to-consumer cosmetics company launched in 2014 by U.S. businesswoman Emily Weiss, who pioneered a new aesthetic for millennial women. So the brand experienced a meteoric rise. They reported 600% growth within 2 years of launching. But by 2021, the brand started to experience setbacks, laying off a third of their corporate staff, and also experiencing significant losses and criticisms. So the tale of the company's recent decline is the subject of Glossy, a new book by New York-based journalist Marissa Meltzer, where the author explores the missteps, allegations, launches, and rumors surrounding the brand. And I'll just read you a bit of the snippet of the book's description so that you can get a better idea. But the bombshell expose that reveals for the first time exactly what happened at Glossier, one of America's hottest and most consequential startups, and dives deep into the enigmatic visionary woman responsible for it all. In Glossy, journalist and author Marissa Meltzer combines in-depth interviews with former Glossier employees, investors, and Weiss herself to bring you inside the walls of this fascinating and secretive company. From fundraising to product launches and unconventional hiring practices, Meltzer exposes the inner workings of Glossier's culture, culminating in the story of Weiss herself. Glossy is a gripping portrait of not just one of the most important business leaders of her generation, but also a chronicle of an era. So it sounds like it'll be very interesting and insightful to read, especially for beauty brands to see really what happened to the brand and where they stand now and kind of what their vision is for the future. But it explores a lot of really interesting topics, why it resonated with so many consumers. It also goes over, the 2010s girl boss era that I'm sure so many of us remember. So it'll be a really interesting read to see all the information that goes into it.
Of course, the book cover has their trademark pink.
Yes. Of course.
Still indicative of that era, right?
Of course, yeah. The millennial pink look.
Yeah.
So the next link is a little bit more fun. So it's a new social media trend that we're seeing Gen Z explore called unapproachable makeup. So on TikTok, the new dark feminine aesthetic has over 66 million views and counting. And it comes from women taking back ownership of what beauty means and falling out of the male guise. So this look is meant to discourage people, specifically men, from approaching women and those who identify with women. So we're seeing a lot of TikTokers explore this beauty trend, creating posts on how to get the look. And it's really relatively simple to achieve. You only need two things, a flawless base and a dark eye makeup look. The base tries to replicate that airbrush look without being too complicated or heavy. So you can just apply a foundation, some translucent powder to create a really smooth blurring effect on skin, kind of gives an ethereal, mysterious vibe. And then for eyes, the key is a delicate line of liquid black liner, buffed out smoky shadow. And it's really essential to use dark and moody eye bases to achieve the look. But I personally love this. It's not quite my aesthetic, but it's definitely my vibe. And I think it's actually really encouraging to see young women using makeup to communicate and express themselves and going against what's deemed as appropriate for every day or what's universally acceptable or beautiful. So
that's interesting. Chelsea, are you still there? Is this going to give way to some kind of new micro trend on TikTok, unapproachable?
I mean, I think there's always a lot of discourse about sort of, we've been shifting towards girl everything and what the feminine and woman experience is. And so I think this is just another facet of that, kind of diving deeper into what the everyday experience for women is and, not wanting to be approached on the street every day. And so this is kind of almost a defense mechanism in combination with the many that I feel like most women have on their day-to-day basis. But I love that because it's also kind of very glamorous. So this is a fun defense mechanism.
Super cool.
All right, so the next link is about an interesting packaging strategy that a new sun care brand is using. So the newly launched sun care brand, Pavice, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, they recently introduced an innovative campaign called the Pleasure Pack. So the new SKU aims to raise awareness about the importance of wearing sunscreen by making a clever connection to safe sex practices. So the Pleasure Pack consists of 5 sachets of the brand's Hero SPF product, and then it's creatively designed to resemble individually wrapped condoms. But they emphasize that using sun care products is a responsible way to protect oneself, just like using condoms. And the Pleasure Pack campaign features images of the sachets placed in wallets, back pockets, near lingerie. And there's accompanying taglines like experience the longest lasting protection ever and barely there, ultra thin, maximum protection. So it's super fun, super cheeky. And I think it's a really effective way to showcase the importance of wearing sunscreen. Sun care is a huge topic in beauty right now. And we actually have a whole beauty shift on sun care that's live on the FS site for spring, summer 25, if any clients are interested in reading about it. But the education to consumers on proper sun care usage is a major part of that conversation. So it's really cool to see how brands are exploring that topic and educating consumers. And I think this is a really fun way to do that.
So clever. I love
Yeah.
that. Uh-oh, and then you save your best for last. I'm obsessed with
Yes.
that. Please.
And finally, the last link I have speaks about how Pamela Anderson went makeup free for Paris Fashion Week. This has been circulating everywhere. And so many people are talking about it. Celebrities are commenting on it. So this article really explores why this is a topic right now, why it's so empowering. There was a Canadian expert who said it's rebellious because it removes the bombshell illusion, something that Anderson has been known for since the 90s. So in her latest Instagram post, 56-year-old former model Anderson, she was smiling with a fresh face and wrote that there is beauty in self-acceptance, imperfection, and love. So many women ended up commenting on her post, especially women between the ages of 40 and 60, commenting, saying how inspiring it was, how it helped them embrace their natural beauty. American actress Jamie Lee Curtis even chimed in, applauding Anderson's decision, saying the natural beauty revolution has begun. So this article really explores this revolution on women showing up in their natural beauty, choosing comfort and self-acceptance, which I think is really powerful. It also speaks to a lot of the aging beauty movement that we're seeing, or anti-aging, and how women are trying to have a different conversation about anti-aging. They want to embrace their age. They don't want to feel like they have to hide. They don't want to feel like they have to reverse their age. Age is a beautiful thing. Aging gives you wisdom and gives you confidence. So it's really amazing to see someone that, again, has had this bombshell illusion attached to her for so long, taking her own power back and showcasing her natural beauty. So I think it's really incredible. And yeah, the article just explains a little bit more depth, some other people's perspectives, but really, really cool.
I know. I think she's stunning. Hallie from our team just chimed in the chat what I was going to say, but that I found out just a couple of days ago that apparently her longtime makeup artist had passed away pre-COVID, and since then she just didn't feel the need to subscribe to that routine anymore. She looks amazing, and I love how much attention that it's gotten this week.
I know, it's been amazing. I'm working on our Paris Fashion Week coverage right now, and every time I Google Paris Fashion Week makeup, all the articles are just about Pamela Anderson. So it's really amazing to see the attention that this is getting.
Yeah, I'm glad you saved that for last.
Yeah.
Yes, Hallie, I agree. If you haven't watched a documentary about her, it's a must this weekend. It's so good. She's an amazing woman, and she's really been through it. So it's a great documentary. Thanks, Taryn. Great links. Okay, we're going to move on to Nico.
Hey everyone, Nico here from the Culture team. My first link is a book. I have it right here, but of course I have my blur on. Okay, there you go. This is Quantum Listening by Pauline Oliveros. Even though it says pre-order, this is out. It was just published, I think, last year. So maybe a lot of you have read this essay or are familiar with Pauline Oliveros, but for those that aren't, Pauline was a renowned American composer and performer who was known for their meditative improvisations in electronic music called deep listening. So Pauline is one of the pioneers of electronic music, and I learned about her when I watched this documentary called Sisters with Transistors, which is all about how there are so many women figures that have pioneered electronic music. So this particular text is about her practice of deep listening or quantum listening. And she multiple times throughout this essay defines quantum listening as listening to listening, which could be confusing to people, but it's essentially just like a really deep meditative form of listening. And I'll just read the back for y'all because it really sums this up very well. What is the difference between hearing and listening? Does sound have consciousness? Can you imagine listening beyond the edge of your own imagination? In response to the anti-war movements of the 1960s, pioneering musician Pauline Oliveros began to expand the way she made music, experimenting with meditation, movement, and activism in her compositions. Fascinated by the role that sound and consciousness play in our daily lives, Oliveros developed a series of sonic meditations that would eventually lead to the creation of deep listening, a practice for healing, open to all, rooted in her musicianship. Quantum listening is a manifesto for listening as activism. Oliveros' futuristic vision, blending technology and spirituality, shows how deep listening is the foundation for a radically transformed social matrix, one in which compassion and peace form the basis of our actions in the world. And this is actually also super relevant because we're doing our Sound Journey events later this month.
Say that, Nico. Thanks for bringing that.
It's funny. I didn't even think of that when I brought this up. But I've been really interested specifically in just sound as, a cultural thing, the way that we listen to music, the kinds of sounds that we hear in our contemporary times. And also, Pauline makes a really interesting point, which I want to read quickly. I bookmarked some of the excerpts that I really liked. But she was talking about how, what did she say? Oh yeah, we live in a visually oriented society. So, for example, she states that this $165 million Mars Climate Orbiter probe launched by NASA in 1998 brought a $15 microphone from a hearing aid module as a hitchhiker. So it just shows what an afterthought sound is. What if we had a really great microphone that was brought to Mars? What would we hear? Other things that she mentions are just that we take cameras to the zoo. We don't take tape recorders. And all these other kinds of examples of the ways that the visual takes primacy over the sonic in modern culture. So really cool read if you're interested. That's a Quantum Listening by Pauline Oliveros.
I feel like at our next event, you and Lily will have to lead a workshop in this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think listening is such an incredible, just questioning listening, what are we listening to? And I think that's such a good point. I think that anyone that experimented with sound, and we did it in a few of our events. I think the first time we did a sound meditation on stage was our first trend immersion, which was years ago. And people were blown away there. I mean, it's so deep in how quickly it enters your brain and just expands. And so anyone that utilizes it already, I'm sure you know what I mean, but those that don't, it's an amazing ingredient to add to creative thinking or any other exploration.
Yeah, I came to realize recently just how few people in our lives are actually good listeners. And I include close friends and family of mine in that. But I consider myself a really good listener. But I've just come to realize in the last couple of years, I think people are so energized about what they want to talk about that a lot of times when you're in a conversation with someone, that all they're thinking about is what they're going to say next, and they miss so much of what you're trying to communicate. And it really teaches me listening is a skill set that is increasingly really hard to come by in people.
Totally.
I love that she makes the distinction that hearing is involuntary. We can't decide if we're going to hear, we just hear. To listen is intentional, and all the potential in that. Also, it's just culturally interesting that I think sound is such a when we hear our favorite music, it's such a visceral experience. We go to concerts, when we hear certain things, it jogs our memory, or even hearing certain music in a store makes people stay in the store for longer. So it is a really important sense that doesn't get enough attention.
Yeah. I just want to point out Gwen so graciously chatted in the chat, and I think this is so interesting that she had an MRI recently. Hope you're okay, Gwen. But she pointed out how the sounds, which of course anyone that's had an MRI, those magnets and things are so loud, but she feels like the sound went right through her, like being a club with loud music, and she feels like it reset her nervous system. It's really interesting.
Wow. Sounds amazing.
Gwen's writing the next book.
Yeah.
So in my next link, it's not necessarily specifically tied to this article, but more just all the news that's been coming out in the last few months about this labor union resurgence in the US. And I wanted to bring it up to really talk about how this is a confirmation of a trend that we've been seeing on the rise for several years here at FS. So, many workers that have struggled through the pandemic who hadn't seen a wage increase in years, or maybe had been dealing with shady corporate practices, are now demanding adjustments to address wage stagnation and health and safety protocols. So just to name a few of the labor movements that have happened this summer, UPS did strike a deal and averted a strike, but they were about to strike in August with 325,000 workers. Of course, everyone knows about the Writers Guild of America strike, in which 11,500 workers were striking. They successfully created a deal quite recently. However, the SAG-AFTRA, which is the Screen Actors Guild, is still on strike with 160,000 members. And of course, the one strike that's been on the headlines for the last couple of weeks is the United Auto Workers strike, which is striking for the first time in a really long time, with 25,000 workers from the big three automakers. And this strike actually brought President Biden to the picket line, making him the first ever president to go to the picket line for a labor strike. And this is just news today. 75,000 healthcare workers in the US are going on strike in Virginia, California, and 3 other states over wages and staffing shortages, which is the latest major strike that we've seen. And just a couple of data points to illustrate, how this movement is accumulating and getting bigger. The Cornell Labor Tracker began tracking strikes in late 2020 and early protests in early 2021. And between January 1st and July 31st of 2023, there were a total of 214 strikes involving about 325,000 workers. So that's just up until July 31st. So of course, now we have tens of thousands more, even higher than that, due to all the strikes that have happened since then. And during the same period in 2021 and 2022, there were only strikes involving about 28,000 workers and 76,000 workers. So that's more than double of what we saw last year. So a Gallup poll also released at the end of August showed that Americans are actually sympathizing more with labor unions. And specifically, they saw that most people that they polled in regards to the Writers Guild strike supported the writers over the production studios. And a record high of 61% believe that unions help rather than hurt the US economy. And now, of course, Trump and Biden, due to these new kind of public views about unions, are vying for their support, which I think is a big indicator of just the importance of this issue emerging in the next few years. But to talk quickly about kind of where we've been tracking it, we cited a specific labor resurgence in April 2022 in the culture section with a new now of the same title, the labor resurgence, where we highlighted these initiatives at Amazon and Starbucks. But even before that, in the fall of 2021, we created a macro trend for 2024 called collective resilience. And this macro trend was really centered around the idea that in order to design for the future, businesses will need to zoom out and really adopt a holistic view that considers the systemic impacts on the periphery and puts our collective long-term wellness ahead of immediate financial gains. And we continued to develop this thread in our spring-summer 2024 cultural sentiment, which was called anti-establishment, in which we posited that as the economic disparities of society became more visible over the last couple of years, critiques on the ultra-rich got louder and louder across culture, and we saw this distrust in hierarchical institutions taking root. So overall, more than ever, consumers are just paying a lot more attention to the way that workers are treated and are really looking to support companies that take a human-centered approach. Prioritizing people and purpose is going to be really crucial to maintaining workforce and a loyal consumer base.
Wow, thanks. This is a great topic. And this wasn't even in my show and tell, but it just made me think of something I saw this morning. But it goes with these conversations of workers. But Jamie Dimon, who is, of course, a very iconic CEO of JP Morgan Chase, he's always very opinionated about the future of work. And he was speaking just yesterday about how he believes the next generation of workers will probably only work a 3.5-day work week due to AI taking out a lot of the inefficiencies in our roles day in and day out. He also believes that we'll live to be 100 years old because of work-life balances. And there's a lot of interesting things he had to say yesterday. And you can kind of, you can just Google Jamie Dimon, hit the news tab, and you'll see Fortune and everyone else reporting on it yesterday. But take a chance to read it, because he also has very strong opinions about kind of the new generation of workers and things that they'll be tasked with and whatnot. Very, very interesting. And a lot of people don't even realize, Nico, right, that like if it weren't for unions, we'd still be working 7 days a week. There's so many things that they're responsible for, especially in the 20th century.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see, people realizing their power and really honoring their humanity by demanding better wages and benefits. But yeah, totally important.
Sure. Mariana, I'm going to just quickly, it's hard for me to copy paste links because I'm on with you, but I'm just going to quickly type in the chat box for you. Jamie Dimon, he's the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. If you just Google it, you'll find a lot of recent news from just the last 24 hours of him. All right, so going to come to my links for today. Two of my three are very, they have a lot of common threads, especially with me working in menswear. This is one that really just, I loved reading. One of our friends who quotes us a lot in the Wall Street Journal, he wrote this great feature about one of America's best tailors, lives in the middle of nowhere in the state of Maine. And I just wanted to kind of like talk about he and his wife and what they do. And I'm going to just scroll down and as I kind of like talk about this amazing guy. So his name is Tony Parati, and he runs a tailoring brand simply called Tony Shirt Makers. I linked the Instagram on the links because he's a beautiful Instagram page. But he is one of many young small town tailors that are really just finding a whole new generation of consumers, people that want to find unique products, who are willing to pay for craftsmanship. And he does that while living in the middle of Maine in a town that I've actually never even heard of. And I've been to Maine many times. He originally went to Parsons. He started his business originally in Brooklyn, where he lived. And then during the pandemic, he and his wife moved to Maine. And so he's usually making custom shirts, everything from like heavy linen Western shirts with mother of pearl snaps to chartreuse green Oxford shirts, thick canvas shirt jackets. They're mostly all around $675. People invest in them. They wait months for their shirts. But it is the contemporary equivalent of a bespoke suit. And so that's why I was really kind of obsessed with this and what he does. Just to give you a little statistic here, in 1997, the United States had about 32,000 custom tailors and sewers, according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. Today, there's less than half that number left. And most are centered around fashion capitals like New York and Los Angeles. Tony learned to start taking a bulk of his orders online, a process that predated the pandemic, and now he's able to reach customers all the way in Thailand, Australia, Berlin. They do virtual fittings. He offers consultations over Zoom, and he asks clients to send in photos of them measuring and wearing their favorite shirt, and he builds upon that to kind of exact a custom fit. So you can kind of look at what they consider a well-fitting shirt, and you can see that maybe the sleeve needs to be an inch longer, the body needs to be a little shorter. And so now he's brought this like very dying craft of bespoke tailoring into the 21st century. And I just wanted to talk about how he went to Parsons and he studied in business. He wasn't even a designer, and he taught himself tailoring. And he once purchased 2 identical shirts from like H&M that fit him adequately enough. And then he painstakingly took one shirt apart, then rebuilt it, comparing his handiwork to the untouched shirt, a strategy that he calls reverse engineering. And so by repeating this stitch by stitch over and over, he learned how to sew, and it's super cool. And over the last few months, he's actually taking a dip into creating trousers, overcoats, even a wedding suit for someone. This is his lovely wife at their studio in Maine. But check out his Instagram. It's like everything you would picture about these cool creatives living in the middle of rural Maine. He puts up all of the things that he creates on Instagram, so you can kind of get a feel for it. But I love reading these kinds of articles because it truly is a dying craft, and it's something that's really important for younger generations to take upon themselves. My next link goes a little hand in hand with that. So Buck Mason, which is a brand that we love on the men's team, we've talked a lot to them about. They do some super cool, innovative things at brick and mortar retail, but they're known for kind of having the perfect t-shirt, right? That's what they're all about. So the 2 founders, they recently saved a 144-year-old factory in Eastern Pennsylvania. And they didn't even intend to buy a factory. I just wanted to like kind of tell you how they came upon it. But you know, the brand has been around since 2013. Hopefully most of you know about them, and they specialize in like menswear staples that are like the perfected designs that they can do. And they typically had been partnering with a lot of international and some domestic factories to produce their clothing. And then by the autumn of 2022, they decided they wanted to build a t-shirt factory on their own outside of Dallas. And then they found this Mountain Knitting Mills, which is a knitting operation that was found in the late 19th century. They were about to go belly up. The business had been around since 1878. They made hats, and they produced, the work there was produced between a fabric knitting mill in Pennsylvania and then a cut and sew facility nearby. And they are the last vertically integrated knitwear facility in the region that once, of course, had a slew of them. So their employees were about to be without jobs, and it was the perfect synergy. So the co-founders of Buck Mason came in, they bought them, and then the deal went through in January of this year. The employees returned to their station. They even had to hire more people, which is super cool. So I loved reading about this, because there are a lot of factories in Pennsylvania and especially upstate New York that have gone out of business over the last decade because of this. So just a really, really great thing that brand did. My last link, and the last link of today's webinar, is just a really fun link. I'm just sharing it just because it's awesome. So the Supermodels, which is a new 4-part documentary that dropped on Apple TV Plus couple weeks ago. I've watched all 4 parts now. Anyone of us that grew up in the 80s and the 90s, of course, it's just great to to see a documentary about Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Linda Evangelista, and Christy Turlington, one of my favorites. And the documentary just talks about how they dominated the modeling world. Of course, previous to them stepping on the runways as editorial models, you almost never saw editorial models crisscross over to the runways, and they completely changed the face of fashion. So for those of you that haven't seen it, I'm just going to play the quick trailer about it, and it's just fun.
It wasn't about the fashion. It was about the women. That's what a supermodel is.
It's the first time we're all together in our 50s.
You see our photo, so you feel that you know us. When you're together with your chosen family, I think that's emotional.
There's something about that shared history that we have.
I feel blessed that we're here today.
We've all gone through so many things in our own lives.
Cindy, Linda, Christy, and Naomi are still redefining what it means to be a model.
There was a feeling about them that they wanted more.
I was not seen as a person who had a voice in her own destiny.
He said you should lose 5 pounds. I got scared I didn't belong.
But Linda's a chameleon. She could really become whatever the photographer wanted her to become.
I would do all these great shows, wear all these beautiful dresses, but then it would come time to the advertising and I would not be included. I wasn't going to be bullied for the color of my skin.
What I loved about the girls, they were a group, and that was so fabulous.
We were always together and we made great photos together.
You know, I just felt like to be together as a group, it just was so fun.
They were my sisters. We get this phone call that George Michael wants to shoot us in his video.
We made a decision, I will do it. I'm gonna do it.
Yes, okay, I'll do it.
Everything changed.
You can start to call the shots and be an active participant in your career.
All of a sudden, we were the physical representations of power.
I wanted to go further. I wanted to push the envelope.
They brought their artistry to the image.
They would see things we didn't necessarily see. They're like the Mona Lisa, the face of her era. They're larger than life.
We helped break down barriers.
I have to think of something greater than myself.
When I first was referred to as a supermodel,
I was like, why are they calling us this?
It wasn't about the hair and the makeup. It wasn't about the fashion. It was about the women. That's what a supermodel is.
So check it out if you have Apple TV Plus. Robin just chatted. She loves seeing Todd Oldham. Agreed. I thought he was so cool back in the day. He used to sometimes be on House of Style with Cindy. For those of you that used to watch House of Style on MTV, it's where I learned a lot about like fashion when I was a teenager. Anyway, really fun. I think those are our links today. So again, we'll share all of these with you guys later in the week, and we hope you come back on November 1st. We're going to have a new and refreshed version of Show and Tell. We'll tell you more about it then, but we're really excited. And thanks for joining us today. Hope you all have a great month. Enjoy fall. Bye, everyone.